Welcome to Stu and the Nut, an online radio show and podcast focused on national security, policy, politics, and selfless service. We're here to give you an honest opinion, a different perspective, and hopefully a few laughs. We do this by not only interviewing guests, but also sharing our own perspectives and asking you, the listener, to interact with us on the show chat room, via our Facebook page, and on Twitter. We would like to thank those who make this show possible and allow us to bring it to you. Our show sponsors, Warrior Media Solutions, BlueHammer.com, Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation, Graybeard Publishing, and of course, Sheepdog Response. We would also like to recognize some of our favorite nonprofit charities who are doing great things for those who have served this country of ours. Veterans Outdoors, Mighty Oaks Warrior Foundation, PinUpsForVets.com, and the Lauren F. Bruner USS Arizona Memorial Foundation. To learn more about these nonprofits and how you can donate to their awesome causes, visit our website at www.stewandthenunn.com. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Stu and the Nunn. I am checking. Do you guys hear buzzing, or is it just me?
I do a little bit.
Yep.
God,
There's a low hum.
I've been fighting this for months. Anyways, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here on December 8th, episode 303. Trace. Joining me tonight, speaking of threes, you got Doug Shard Mullen drinking out of his Christmas cup, and with the creator of the Ramp, Gear for Grunts, a great sponsor, along with Commodity Outdoors, Red Rum Sport Fishing, BlueHammer.com, and many others. And Rob, the unpaid producer. Well, we're all unpaid, actually, to be quite honest. But it just rolls well, right? And Rob is sporting a Gear for Grunts shirt tonight.
Certainly is.
Yes.
God love him for it.
Yes, look at that. I hear the sales just spinning in right now. Just cash registers, just ding, ding, ding.
That's
ding.
right. Go ahead and flex, Rob. Go ahead and
Yes.
flex and make your shirt explode.
Look at
That'll
that.
just-
I saw the legs. I saw the legs of his hula girl tattoo sticking out there or something. I don't know what that was, but yeah. Anyways, thank you everyone for joining us. It has been a couple weeks. It's been tough. I know we've been gone. We've canceled a number of shows. Obviously, Toby is still down running Red Rum in Cabo San Lucas and doing a great job of it. And just leaves one and Rob, sort of myself and Rob, and we both have full-time jobs, and minus that one person makes a big difference in trying to get things set up and run stuff and all that. And it's just been a crazy time with grandbabies being born and Thanksgiving and hunting and Christmas and all kind of stuff going on. So
That's great.
it is and hunting kind of and for the last 3 nights the putting up of the Christmas lights because as you know, I'm quite the Griswold of the
You
street.
certainly are.
And I question, like, why do I still do this? But they are up. They're going. Their music's going. I'm looking at them right now. So, yeah, it's just crazy times. But anyways, thanks, guys, for joining tonight. And the three of us to kind of chat about all kind of stuff going on. How you guys doing?
Never sure. I'm doing great. If I didn't have first world problems, guys, I wouldn't have any problems at all. So how you doing, Rob?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you? How's
Yeah.
the weather down in Texas?
It was 79 degrees today. So there you go. Mostly cloudy, but it's been that way for the last couple of weeks. So grass is still green. Can you believe that?
Yeah, it's been raining here for a week solid.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Well, we have no snow here. The snow is gone, and it's been in the 40s, and it's 35 right now. And yeah, so it's just cold here and raining.
How deep did that snow get there for you?
Where I live, 8 inches, maybe max over the whole time. Lake effects, it's so funny, right? That was happening. People saw Jim Cantori's coming here. It was all over every news thing. You know, it was like, oh my God. Well, he was. That dude got, if you haven't seen the videos of him getting sighted over thunder snow is really cool. That dude, there's videos up there. He's losing his mind. I think it went off like 6 times while he was broadcasting, and he was like literally having orgasms over it. But it's a very rare occurrence. So Yeah, it was.
Few things tell you it's getting real, like him showing up at a
Yeah,
storm.
him stepping off the jetway is like, oh shit.
That and a basket at the liquor store. That means you mean business.
Yeah. Yes. Actually, a whole a cart. There's like a full grocery cart.
Yeah.
But no, it was lake effect snow. I call it fake snow because it just comes from wind blowing across an unfrozen lake. It runs sometimes in very narrow bands, and that's exactly what it did. So 20 minutes south of me, it was 80 plus inches, like where the Bill Stadium is, and that kind of 30 minutes. It was 68, 70, 80 inches. Here it was 8. I was out hunting. Where I was hunting, it was an inch and a half. I wasn't even home. I was, I was out doing my thing. So, yeah, it wasn't too bad. But what you saw, I mean, it was bad down south. There's no doubt. I say down south of me by 20, 30 minutes. Pretty bad.
Yeah, that's right. I'm down south.
Down south. But anyways, yeah, God. So not too bad. But hey, great to have you guys. It's, we always say, as a reason why I think we moved our show to Thursday, because Thursday seems to be news day. Boy, this week did yet again.
I'm telling you.
For every week, yes. Years on end, did not let us down. I think we all woke up to the news that got one of our American citizens back, but rated a murdering gentleman with the nickname Angel of Death for her. Yep. Which we love having our citizens back. Hopefully that makes them appreciative of what a great country it is. Yeah, Brittany Griner, we woke up to that this morning, and they had negotiated, it sounded to me like Russia negotiated and said, here's what we'll do and nothing else. At least that's the official story, right? That it was her or nothing.
Right.
Which makes me sound like they were in complete control of the negotiation. But I guess, Doug, what was your thoughts when you woke up and saw that news, or maybe you were up already?
I got the Apple News flash on my phone. I'm like, really? It's like the first, like my first conscious sort of rendering this morning was looking at it. I'm like, really? And, since, our president says she represents the best of America. So, what can you do? I mean, the other poor guy with the Marine who's been held, I don't know how long. I guess he just left for dead. I guess the priority of work is what's going on over there at the White House, I guess. Right. So everybody's got their own priority of work, and that the Marine was not in that priority or at the top.
What was your thoughts, Rob? I mean, it kind of caught everyone out. No one. They kept the pretty secret, right? Everybody's like, what?
They must have used the same negotiators they did for Bo Bergdahl. That and any of the worst trades you can think of in sports history. They've just followed suit with garbage. They left a Marine sitting there. We traded this merchant of death for a single individual. This merchant of death who's been dealing arms for quite a while. That many of those arms have killed probably many Americans, and it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting that Marine who's been there longer was not forefront for this, and that they just left him there. There's reports now that was offered a one for one trade, and that the administration turned it down and tried to get a 2 for 1, and then they settled for just her. It's disgusting. The administration has zero standing to tell the American people anything about gun control when they just released the #1 arms dealer in the world back to Russia.
Yeah, it really kind of contradicts.
They have zero standing.
It contradicts yesterday him saying that he was ready to ban AR-15s again. But I mean, well, you're taking the business away from the guy you just released to do it. And I guess what got me the most was that from what we're hearing, and all we can do is take it as face value, is that it was the offer from both Kirby said and Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is, was that it was her or nothing, which means we were in no position of negotiation or control of the negotiation. I've heard better negotiating by Crumley on frickin' Pawn Stars over a piece of crap. I mean, there was nothing. It was this or that. Well, and so their excuse is, well, it was hers better than nothing. Well,
it was better negotiation in Die Hard the movie. than there was
Did I
for
lose
this.
you guys?
But I think they needed an expert to get rid of all of that equipment that they left in Afghanistan. So they needed somebody to go in there and inventory and sell it for them.
Oh well, he's good. He's good. That's a good point. I did not put that 2 and 2 together, but
brilliant.
that could have been it. They
Brilliant.
Russia picked it all up. He's called the Merchant of Death because it sounds better than just like the head supply guy or the head.
Yes.
He's the head armor, or really the head supply guy. He's the chief G4 of the Russian of the country of Russia, right? He's sitting there inventorying, making sure no GSA cards have been given out to Doug. And
everything has fresh batteries in it.
Everything's got
they
fresh
have the right
batteries
in stock.
He's got things lined up side by side, counting off. Everyone's doing a big layout right now, and he's laying out all the weapons and vehicles and the other $60 billion worth of crap we left behind in Afghanistan. He's accounting for it. Probably not carrying. I'm assuming he's not doing a serial number inventory because he's not really signed for it. So he's probably, if there's a couple missing, he's probably like, oh well, that just happens. But it is telling that that Putin did this now, and I think is also is telling is that you mentioned the same negotiator as Bergdahl. I don't think they use one single person. I think the world has attuned themselves to the fact that this country is so fucked up with wokeness. Sorry, Mom, I had to cuss. That they know all they have to do is play the right card, make sure the right stuff's being pushed in the media, and which they could be behind themselves in social media and everything. And they use that. They have a Marine, white dude, well, nothing. But, I mean, call it like it is. A black lesbian female punches all those affirmative action tickets.
Priority work.
That's why Russia grabbed her in the first place.
Right.
That's why Russia grabbed her in the first place.
Right. There have been others.
Negotiation tool.
There have been others in Russia that have been popped for real drugs, and they've let them go. And they had what they needed. That's why they touted in front of it and sent her to hard work camp, hard labor camp. They knew how to play the American people, and more importantly, the American media and the Democratic Party. That's what they knew how to do. So I give them kudos. I give them kudos for knowing how to utilize the weaknesses of America.
Know your enemy. That's all they had.
They know us pretty well. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So she's on her way back now. Hope is not a method, as we say in the Army, but hope is something all of us have, regardless of what situation we're in. So I'll say this: I would hope that she gets back here after seeing what she saw. No, you guys know what I'm talking. When we went overseas, when you've been in a third world country or whatever, you come back to the United States and you are super appreciative and sometimes even sickened at how good we have it. And you appreciate everything. You don't have to be a third world country. You can just go to Australia, Germany, Europe, England, and be appreciative of our rights, our Constitution, and everything else we have here. Everything else that is at our beck and call, like Doug said, first world problems. I would only hope that she would come back from however she was treated, land on the ground, drop her 7'2" ass down, whatever tall she is, kiss the ground, wrap herself in a flag, and swear she made a mistake, and tout that she made the biggest mistake ever kneeling for the anthem, and be the biggest proponent for America and freedom and patriotism as we've ever seen. That's what I would hope for. Now, the left would absolutely hate that. Let's call it like it is.
Right.
And I would go against their narrative. But I would hope that what she saw and experienced was so bad that she would come back and realize how good we have it here. However, I'm not confident that's going to happen.
Well, her and her wife are both, the wife, I watched part of a press conference earlier, and they're saying the right things. We're going to continue to push for the release of the rest of the Americans. We're going to continue to push for these things. So they're saying the right things. Is it disingenuous? I don't know.
OJ said he was going to look for the real killer. I'm just saying.
Sure.
He's still looking, man. 30 years later, it's hard. It's hard.
I mean, this is the only WNBA trade that anybody has ever, that people can remember. So
that anyone ever cared about.
That's so true.
Yeah. But we'll see. We'll see if it holds true. I mean, I said it before.
I don't know how good the Merchant of Death. I don't know how good his 3-point is, but I'm not sure.
Right. If the roles had been reversed, and I'd said this before, but we'll see. I don't think she would have given a rat's ass if it were anybody else. Like she never spoke out about the Marine that was there. She never,
Right.
Anybody else that was there. Maybe now that she's been there, maybe now she will. Time will tell.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's
True.
like I say, that's what I hope for. That's not what I'm expecting. I hope I'm wrong. But if it, I'm going to go on and predict that if I am not wrong, comes back and goes back to her own way, and does her rounds on MSNBC and CNN and everywhere else, and gets that book deal inked and all that other kind of stuff, and
a movie deal
is on the View by next week. And everything
Yep.
else, and starts blaming conservatives, Republicans, Trump, and giving all the credit to Biden and all the Dems, then we know that there's no way that what I was hoping for would happen. Number one, number two, there's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be glad that an American brought back, but then they're really going to start questioning, like, if she's not appreciative and likes this country.
Well, the whole world knows she smokes marijuana now, so she's second.
Well, it was a vape.
The most second famous to that, next to Willie Nelson, right now.
Well,
so
it was a vape.
There's many states. There's many states where it's not legal, even in the form that she had. So there's many states that she will be a target if she goes to, because she will be pulled over. She'll be, arrested.
She won't be.
Will they do anything?
She won't be a target. They'll.
Right.
I mean,
Willie Nelson's bus gets raided all the time.
George Floyd got a flag presented to his family at his 17th funeral, and he was high on and he was COVID and high on drugs when he died. Right, so there's nothing when you become the darling of the left. There's nothing bad you are. You get propped up and pimped out for being the greatest thing ever. If you meet their narrative and push what they want. So.
Well, the smartest person that the president knows is also a crackhead.
Yes,
I mean,
yes, he is the smartest one. Doug, we lost your video. Just his iPhone.
Yeah,
I'm glad it didn't say your.
I gotta go deal with the tow truck.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm glad it didn't say your phone number. It'd be very awkward.
I'll be right back.
Okay, we go ahead.
Sorry.
So yeah.
First world problems.
First world problems. Okay. So what else you got? What else you got, Rob?
Well, I mean, real quick before we move on to those things, that this week was Pearl Harbor, 81 years. So that
I didn't know he was going to drop. Okay, hold on a second. Sorry everyone for the video. When Doug dropped, it throws all my video cropping off. So when Doug comes back, it'll be fixed. Right now you're seeing a split view of Rob. It's kind of weird. Let me hide the one. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry, you're talking about Pearl Harbor. I had that on my
so
list
Pearl
too,
Harbor.
Yeah.
So 81 years. It's unfortunate that there's still, there's new generations that can't, that have no idea what December 7th is, right? That they don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just not teaching it. I don't know if they're, the kids are just not learning it or what. But December 7th, Pearl Harbor Remembrance. So teach your kids. Because the school is not.
Yeah. We said we would
make sure
never.
That they know.
Yeah, we said we'd never forget, and that was yesterday. It was a very, it was kind of given a passing in the news or whatever. But I mean, I definitely stopped, thought about our good friend and past guest Lauren F. Bruner on this show. I mean, he was I meant to actually go on and re-pimp out our interview with him, but I just never got. I was just swamped, but. Definitely, wrote the book, USS Arizona, second to last to leave. I still tell people to this day, when I was down at Scott Mann's house a couple months ago and interviewing him, we were talking about it, and I was telling him, I'm like, Scott, you got to read this book. But it is still, to this day, in my opinion, one of the greatest books ever written. And it's one that I can continue to pick up and go back and read. Not to me. I mean, you can go back and rewatch movies, right? Movie pops back up, like, oh, Blazing Saddles or Caddyshack or Black Hawk Down. Yeah, I can rewatch that. There's not many books that people go back and reread a book. That is definitely one. And what he did, and the last, and he's also the last one to be intern survivor of the Arizona, back of the Arizona. So when he got when they put his body back down underwater. There's only a few left, and none of them are planning to do that. He's the last one to go back down. So, yeah, December 7th, a day that will live in infamy, but it depends on us, the parents, the grandparents today, to make sure that happens. It's not going to happen automatically. Right.
I've had conversations over the years about, the importance of history, because I like history. I think many people who've been in the military enjoy history, because there is such a rich and long history for many things, many different things in the military, whether it's artillery or the armor division or just the Army or the Navy or whatever itself. And so I've always liked history, and the importance of things like we've seen over the last couple of years, tearing down statues and tearing down memorials and trying to erase and rewrite history. These things are there for a reason. They're not to be viewed through the lens of today, as some sort of atrocity that happened 50, 60, 100 years ago. They're supposed to be viewed through the lens of today as, this is what happened. This is a reminder for it not to happen again. That's what many things are there for. And we've got to make sure, because as I said, that the schools are not teaching these kids these important things in history, and so it's up to the parents to make sure that they're learning it.
No, yeah, because what are the schools teaching? They're teaching about orgies and 37 different types of gay, and what you want to call yourself, whatever you want, and do all that kind of stuff, and how to masturbate and all that stuff. We see it time and time again, right? That was one of the been major issues in this country in the last couple of years, when it really wasn't before. Really, since I still say that, I think I said on the show before, it's one of the positives that came out of the COVID lockdown and COVID was that because of kids being sent home and schooling from home, parents being sent home and working from home, they got to actually start to see what's being taught in the schools. I truly believe, had that not happened, the proliferation of what's happening within our schools of not teaching the 3 R's, but teaching everything else, but and everything about sexuality and this and that to some of the youngest age, would not be known today. I'm convinced that it was COVID that brought that to light. Parents couldn't ignore it when they're in one room and they're hearing their kid in another room and hearing what's being said to them or what they're saying. We just kind of trusted teachers and schools to be doing the right thing.
I mean, you saw smaller instances of it as kids would record what was going on.
Right.
So
but that was like
that
was like not my school, it was like not my town. Right. It was that kind of, that's somewhere. Even though they weren't always like big towns or liberal towns, it was happening everywhere. But but it is important to teach history. And a lot of folks I know, a lot of people I consider I'm closest to do that. I mean, they make sure their kids understand it. They make sure their kids understand some of the basic vocational skills and things, whether it's from hunting or how to cook, how to care for yourself and your house, to
manage your finances,
how to handle vehicle maintenance, whatever it may be. They're just those things that there needs to be. I mean, remember back in our days, right? When you either took home ec or wood shop or metal or plastics or this or that. They're like everything else, teaching you all these different courses, so you got a sampling of all this different stuff. That it was an idea just to give you some kind of basic skill. Maybe it planted something. Maybe you went off and did mechanics, but yeah. Anyways, whole different time. Yeah. So yeah, but thank you for bringing up December 7th, yesterday, 1941.
81 years.
81 years. Yeah. Yeah, so let's speaking of the military, I don't know, did you see this thing about this lieutenant colonel? Quite hilarious. They called him a high-ranking military officer, which look, I guess for junior enlisted, a lieutenant colonel is a high rank. In the Pentagon, the dude gets coffee and donuts. But
that's a battalion. That's a battalion commander level.
It is a battalion commander, but if he's not in a command level, he's a staff weenie or something. But anyways, yeah, a mom in New Jersey went onto a Facebook group for the school system in New Jersey and complained that her 7-year-old was walking into the school. She was giving an alert to other parents that again, like we just talked about, parents were got alerted to what their kids were being taught when they heard it. She was walking to school and saw posters up talking about things like polysexual and pansexual. This is a 7-year-old. And so she put up a comment on a Facebook page or Facebook group for the school, saying that, hey, this is up at these posters, talking about the sexuality stuff, the virtues of it and everything, are up at the school, just letting other parents know. And this lieutenant colonel, who I'm not sure of his relation to the school or anything like that, but obviously he was on there and saw it and made some comments to her, and to the point that even though the military is very woke and a lot of stuff, I guess they have fired this Lieutenant Colonel Schilling. He has been relieved of command. So it's
I mean, let's be honest. If you, as an adult, want to teach sexuality of any kind, form, or fashion to anybody between the age of just born to just shy of 16, say 15, you're a pervert. You're a pervert. You're a sexual deviant. You are a predator. You have zero right standing or moral compass to be teaching those types of things to children of that age. Period. The same type of people in one breath want to say, well, we should lower the voting age because we want them engaged in it, then turn around and say you're not old enough or mature enough to own a weapon, but then turn around and go 3-year-olds can decide what their sexual orientation is. No, right. No. 10-year-olds still believe Batman and Santa Claus. They still believe those things, and you can't You should not be teaching anything sexual to children of that age.
And if it does fall on anyone to talk to children about sex and anything, it's on the parents, right? It's when, hey,
yes,
we have a son. Hey, honey, husband, it's your job to have the birds and bees. We have a daughter, mom. You got to sit down and have a conversation before she starts out the class. But it looked like they refer to it as joint base. So I'm assuming they meant joint base Dix McGuire. That's the only joint base in New Jersey. He was there, and I guess I want to kind of talk about what he said. He gave her. This is a civilian lady, right? And obviously he must have represented. Well, he represented himself as a military member. And what he said was that he on his page he'd put that there were security concerns with her post, and said that the joint base Dix McGuire, I'm assuming again, the only one in New Jersey, was working with local law enforcement to monitor the situation and ensure the continued safety of the entire community. Now, that's the kind of statement from the military or from a law enforcement agency or any government agency that makes it sound like an active shooter situation or it's some kind of standoff or something like that, right? We're monitoring the situation. We're ensuring the safety of the community. That's like probably what they did or should have been saying in Uvalde or something like that. Not right. From a mother expressing concern about her 7-year-old being exposed to pansexual and whatever else sexual stuff that she saw, polysexual and that kind of thing. So when she saw that as a pure civilian, not knowing who he was, if he was, member of this or that or whatever, but just as a military member saying the base was, you can see why it gave her major concerns as a pure civilian. Like, the military's monitoring my post and they're making sure the community's safe. Probably waiting for the door to get kicked, right? And the black helicopters to show up. But so he's been relieved and fired. So that was the. I guess it also goes to show that they always worried about when social media first started. When I started blogging, when I was blogging from Afghanistan in 06, 07, and that, they were always worried about junior enlisted bloggers. There was a number of them, the E4s and E5s and stuff, and so on and so forth. And even more junior that were blogging back in those days when there was no social media policy. And they were always worried about, them saying something, releasing OPSEC, doing whatever. And you hear stories every once in a while, and you've heard it over the years as military members saying something on Facebook or whatever and getting in trouble with it at work, right? Because their stuff wasn't private or they shared it with someone else and some military leader or someone else saw it, and like sergeant majors or whatever, colonels, whatever it may be. So it's always been looked at that way. I don't think anyone looked at that a lieutenant colonel stepping way outside of his lane, making you could kind of say a pseudo eluded a threat to a civilian military member or civilian member, non-military, about something is probably something they never expected they would have to police up when they wrote the social media policy.
Well, if you think so, how long it takes to get to lieutenant colonel? You can probably make lieutenant colonel. I would say probably around 15 years, right? So
probably
depending on the individual, 12 to 15 years. So this individual was probably, lieutenant when you were still in, right? And so you can see from examples like this, and it's happening more and more, the dumpster fire that military leadership has turned into. From this example to, there's countless others, to just the poor leadership that has been elevated. You remember the old term, "buck up, move up."
Right.
Sorry. So, but that term's been around for forever.
Right.
But I would have to say that this individual, this probably wasn't an isolated incident with this individual.
I'm sure it wasn't his first time. This one just made the news.
Yeah. So it's a sad state where the military is in, and they wonder why recruiting is at an all-time low.
Well, and again, you talk about he's probably been in 15 to 20 years, and so he was post 9/11, obviously, and probably came in hoorah, all that kind of stuff. But we've all seen what is being taught, and all not even counting the universities and through RTCs, what's being taught at the service academies. Right, the wokeness, the this and that. These are our next up and coming or recently commissioned lieutenants. Right, these are the captains. These are the colonels, the majors and colonels in 10 to 15 years are the ones that are doing gender studies, woke awareness training right now in our military academy. So this is not something that's going to turn around, right? And it's going to take a reprioritization for our military of what's really important. And I use that term because it's a much better term than, we need our butts kicked and go back to war for the people to realize what the hell the military's for, and for them to get reprioritized on what they should be focused, because that's what it's going to take, right? The longer, sad that it takes that, but and this also isn't something I consider new to this generation or time. This has been repeated by our country after every major war since at least World War I, that our country gets into this numb, dull mindset, like there's going to be no other war, right? We've had, after everyone, they start downsizing, start cutting people, cutting budgets, cutting weapons programs, and they act like we're all in peace now. We're never going to deal with this again. World War I, they thought that was it. Somehow they thought that was really the Great War. Never another one. Never would this world let that happen. Case, and we're back into that again. Right? No one thinks we're going to have another war anytime soon. Obviously, with this roll over, it's not because they're Democrats and fight. Seen Obama drop more bombs off of predators than anybody else, but it's just that they will not. They're not going to have the stomach for it, and obviously after the last 20 plus something years of war, it's going to take a lot for this country to have the stomach to take on another war, unless we seriously get sucker punched again.
Well, war would indicate that both sides are fighting. When our enemies are training daily, where they're training the lowest enlisted soldiers, combative skills, and our soldiers are learning pronouns, it's not going to be a war. No. It's going to be an annihilation of our military.
Right. How many?
What it'll be.
When our military is gutting, when our recruiting's in the tank, and we're kicking out soldiers because they won't get a shot that is untested, no longer needed, and it's not even a thing anymore. In fact, thankfully, with the House Republicans have held their line on this, and it looks like the mandate's gotten removed in the latest defense budget bill. But still, there's a number of careers that have gotten ruined. I know firsthand a family a distant family member who was in the Corps. That got booted. He was so excited, was all for it, and his time in the Corps has ended because he would not get the shot. You know.
Well, they've talked about, you need to, put them back in, give them their jobs back, etc. What makes anybody think that they would want to go back in?
Right.
What makes anybody think that? I mean, they've already been screwed over by the military, by the government for this in the first place. The next screwing is right around the corner. So why would anybody go back in?
Right. Yeah, like they're going to be treated any different, you know?
Yeah.
For sure. But hey, Doug, everything all good?
Nope, no audio, Doug.
You are in mute status, my friend. Nope. You can do a interpretive dance of what you're trying to say. I don't know, but yeah.
I am not muted.
Oh,
there we
you
go.
There we go. Now we're tracking.
All right. Okay. I wasn't muted, but yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, I'm all good. Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. But anyways, we were just talking about woke military. And
we'll see the new Sergeant Major of the Army was announced today, so we'll see what direction he takes it.
The what? There was?
There's a new Sergeant Major of the Army, Sergeant Major Michael Weimer.
What happened to the last guy
who succeed Grinston?
Yeah, why is
Michael
Grinston just got there?
Who will depart the role in August of 2023.
Oh, okay. So it's a year out. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we'll this guy comes from SF, comes from the Green Berets. We'll see. He was 7th Special Forces Group. We'll see what he does.
Yeah. Well, will Milley retire by then? Because we need to get rid of Scorsese there, General Scorsese, beforehand.
Milley couldn't retire quick enough.
I mean, he needs to go read his.
There's a whole lot of people that need to get rid of.
Yeah, he needs to go read his White Rage book or whatever he's doing or something. But yeah.
That's right.
Speaking of books, our good friend, and many time guest and guest host and everything else, Dave Bellavia has a new book out. If you guys don't know, I have a copy of it. I have not had a chance to sit down and read it with everything going on. But it's his second book out. He's been working on it for a while. It's obviously the first one released since he was awarded the Medal of Honor. But remember the Ramrods. In true Dave fashion, the Ramrods was the name of his unit. That was their. And just like he did when he received the medal, and just like he did at the Pentagon, Hall of Heroes speech, it was all about his guys, right? When he got the Medal of Honor, he was the first one ever that brought up his entire unit on stage, right, where they filled the entire stage. He asked President Trump. He said, sure. He didn't realize he was bringing up like 20-something people. But this one is Remember the Ramrods, an Army Brotherhood in War and Peace. So that is out now on Amazon. It is audiobook.
Right.
Dave, I have a copy of both. Dave did the entire audiobook himself. And also the book is out too. So definitely something to check out. His newest book, Dave Bellavia, only living recipient from Iraq. Been on here a number of times, well before he ever got the Medal of Honor. Some have said he got it because of his popularity on this show. I don't know.
It could be. It's a good conspiracy theory.
Of course, he did the audio himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't expect less of Dave.
Yeah. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson couldn't even do it as good as him, but.
Right.
Yeah. So he is. Anyways, that's out. Remember the Ramrods and Army Brotherhood and War and Peace. I want to make sure to get a shout out for that. Plug in that.
Link is up in the chat.
Thank you very much. And yeah. So it is up in the chat. So anyways, I'm excited to get a chance to maybe over the holidays when things slow down a little bit at work to take a chance to read it. And actually hoping to see him in a couple weeks. He's going to be in the neighborhood and be available. So we're hoping to link up and hang out a little bit. May do some live videos on here. But yeah, not everything, because a lot of our talk is not meant for the air or public consumption.
That is true.
It's definitely not meant for public consumption. But anyway, so Doug, what do you got, man? We've been talking about the lieutenant colonel that got fired for getting on Facebook and saying some stuff he shouldn't have. We talked about December 7th, but while you were gone.
Oh, right.
Right. Any other current topics right now that you want to make sure you highlight that we talk about tonight, or you want opinion on?
Well, I've been reading a couple articles about green energy lately and some sort of contrarian views of it, in that the ability to store any energy that's so produced. Like, let's assume that windmills and solar can produce anything that's worthy of replacing our current fossil fuels energy production. So and it's all just completely wishful thinking as far as these guys are getting a couple of these articles. And it's really weird. These articles just kind of came out, different places, different people, but at the same time talking about pretty much the same general topic and then some specific details too. So I thought that was very interesting, that it's, even if you would assume that it can generate enough for whatever you think your needs are, but they can't store it. So and there's no battery farm big enough to, and they said they're not even considering, the people who are pushing this aren't even considering that. They're just blowing that off as that's something we'll figure out when we need to. When we get there, we'll figure it out, because they're not even generating enough power. So I just thought that was fascinating, because even if they get past first base, right? Oh, we can actually generate power, but we can't store it. So I don't know. I'm just
well, and that's always conflated with a lot of people, especially when you watch.
I just read that recently, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
Especially
and
when
they're
you
using
watch
like real metrics
Congress
and numbers and things. So,
right. So that's always conflated when you watch anything up on Capitol Hill, and they talk about, batteries. Batteries are not a generation of power. Batteries are storage. They do not generate power. So you could produce Elon Musk could produce batteries nonstop for the next 100 years, and we still couldn't power enough of the U.S. to last more than a month.
Well, and the thing is, the materials,
get the power to them.
The materials that make up those batteries get dug out of the earth. They get extrapolated from the earth. They get their precious metals and materials and minerals that we tear into this globe. So that they worry about the impact to the environment, the impact to the world. But where do you think this stuff comes from? Right? Those batteries aren't coming out, and like you said, they don't make power. They just store power. Now, it's funny you mentioned that, Doug, because I just read an article today about the EV vehicles. Right? Chevy and GMC Silverado have just come out with an all EV truck. Right, 400-mile range if you don't run anything else electrical, and you got a good tailwind, and it's in the first 6 months. But what they're talking about now is the weight of these vehicles, because of the batteries, is pushing them to the point where the International Highway Institute cannot do crash tests on them because they're so heavy. So apparently over a certain weight, like 9,000 pound gross vehicle weight, they don't do crash tests on, because big commercial vehicles and stuff don't do it on. They do it more on because they consider less than that really a passenger vehicle. Well, when you look at the new all-electric Hummer, right, the batteries alone on that thing are almost 4,000 pounds. Right?
Isn't that amazing?
Right.
It's
so this thing is a rolling tank. So even though you're not burning gas to move that weight, right, because you're like, oh, it's all electric, right? The weight of that thing, if it hits you, is like an old 57 Buick. It's gonna freaking break through. And they showed, I saw they tried to do some crash tests on it, and it just is. It's amazing. And so you think about, if you are in a crash, right, usually the entire undercarriage, where there's a transmission, all that stuff, that's usually where all the batteries are. That's where the batteries are on a number of on hybrids or full electrics, is underneath the entire passenger compartment, right? The same lithium batteries that we see Teslas just catch on fire and blow up, or we see scooters.
Right, that's another issue.
Yeah, the little hoverboards. It's the same kind of battery, lithium-ion battery. So when they get crushed in a front and back end collision, let's say in a sandwich in between, those batteries are either going up, going out, stuff shooting out, something like that. They're underneath the complete passenger compartment of that. But you have that much weight, 3,000 to 5,000 pounds extra on a vehicle, shoving through stuff. It's not going to be good.
Well, and the chemical nightmare once you
and the hazmat. Yeah, and the hazmat, right? Exactly. Yeah. And that's another reason they probably don't want to crash test those things. We got to clean up this mess, and it's a whole different protocol.
Right.
When the fire department rolls up on a Tesla burning, they have to break out some SOP, because it's a completely different approach than my your typical gas powered car issues.
Guess what the fire department does if your house is on fire and you have solar panels on the roof?
They let it burn.
Watch it burn.
Right.
Burn. They're not going
because
up
of the weight. Yeah.
The weight on the roof.
That's right.
And those things catch fire. The amount of toxic smoke and chemicals that they put out. But with that extra weight on the roof, if it starts to burn through that roof, they can't predict how long that roof will hold.
Right.
With that weight on it, it will burn. They will let it burn. They'll do their best to put it out, but they're not going in that house if there's any chance that roof's coming in with all that extra weight on it. But yes. But we got states like California and now New York and all these others mandating all electric vehicles this now, which is awesome. That is awesome if there was an infrastructure. But as I've said it before, I don't think it's changed. You cannot drive a Tesla or any all electric vehicle from Dallas to Denver. It is not possible. There are no charging stations. You will not make it from Dallas to Denver in an all electric. A hybrid? Yes, not an all electric. I'm a fan of the hybrids personally. I think that's awesome. If I could just tool around town and only need battery and plug it in when I go home and never have to burn gas for my 5 or 10, 15, 20 miles around town, that's awesome. That's what gives me a 50, 60 mile range. But the all electric where, you have to stop every, couple hours and hopefully find a charging station that hopefully you can connect to, that hopefully is working, that hopefully is not filled up with other cars, and wait for that to charge before you can keep going. There's no way. No, not.
Well, a gas car can stop, and in 5 minutes you're filled up and you're gone.
Right.
And if I've got to wait even the minimal, which is I think about 20 minutes for even a partial charge.
Oh, in Tesla, you can pay extra. The subscription model is great. You pay extra for fast charging. Yeah, it could do it. Yeah. You got to pay extra for fast charging. It'll charge like in 30 minutes the whole thing.
It's like a fast pass at Disney World. You got to pay extra for it.
You got to pay extra.
Get on got to pay the man. Yeah. So, and I guess I just don't understand why if it was truly an electric car, why doesn't each of the four wheels like an alternator, like a rolling? It just drives off its own power. It's like the faster it goes, the more it generates. So and you'd have a battery on board just to kind of like store it, so you can like an
alternator, kinetic energy. Or why not make the
I just
entire
don't
roof,
understand.
Yeah, the entire
I don't
roof
understand.
And hood a solar panel. Why not make the entire roof a solar panel?
It's like a World War II German U-boat. When they go underwater, they're all on battery power. I'm like, what? And they can only stay underwater for so long, and they got to come up and recharge I'm like, where? It's just like nothing new. I don't understand why this is like.
Remember the little windmill thing? Remember the little multicolor pinwheel wind thing as a kid, and you'd blow on it, or yes. They just need a couple of those on top, right? Like little mini windmills. You laugh, but think about it, right? A little mini. It could be an enclosed windmill on top. As you drive, it spins the wheel. It charges the batteries. I don't know. My mind's blowing here, but a solar panel roof and a freaking windmill on top.
There you go.
Keeps your shit charged. Ain't got to stop every couple 100 miles.
We can integrate the moon roof. The moon roof is a solar panel, so that's like the black part of the top of your car.
Dude, the whole roof. Why not the whole roof?
The whole roof. Okay, let's get together and form an auto company, guys. The three of us. We call it Tres Amigos. That'll be a new real electric car, real EVs.
Well, we could.
The sad thing is,
we're three white dudes. We could call it Tres Leches.
Tres Leches.
What amigos? The sad thing is we're as a country we're driving towards these electric vehicles, and we're putting zero money into our infrastructure that was just attacked in North Carolina, and reports are coming out that it's been attacked in other places.
Oh, I was going to get that too. Yeah.
And they can't seem to, it's taken a week to get people power. We're talking about a first world country, the United States. We are pushing for these electric vehicles, and we can't even keep our own electric infrastructure operating properly.
Right. That's a great point.
Now, if you look at like in the IT industry, what do we do for situations like that? We either have generator backup or we use battery backup, right? UPSs have been around forever in the IT industry.
Yeah.
Take your wind and solar infrastructure and turn it into a backup device. Create a parallel system for the grid and supply that as a backup. Keep it offline until needed and be able to power back up and supply that grid with the power. That's the only way you're going to be able to get a quicker, more rapid adoption.
Right, right. But like you said, like Doug was going back to, there's nowhere. It's all about battery store. I knew this when I used to play like video games. I know it's some of those video games I played back in the day, right? Where you had to make your little windmills and build your little energy things as you built your army and all that kind of stuff, right? You always had to have storage and store all this stuff. And you know, like I said, those things, windmills can turn nonstop. Batteries, the solar panels can gather. Man, they are. Doug, if you came back up to my house, you were here a number of years ago, about 2009, I think. You would not. If there's an empty parcel of land anywhere around the university, anywhere around here, there's solar panels on. They are all along the throughway, Interstate 90. There are solar panels there, but they gotta have batteries to store it at, and it is there's you guarantee there's just energy being wasted. It looks good, but if there's not the use, right, it's not going anywhere. But
isn't it funny how the Obama's house out on Martha's Vineyard has no solar panels, or any of the Clinton buildings, or any of these, or what is Al Gore running? Has anybody looked at his house lately? Does he have a windmill? Does he have solar panels? Yeah. These people that are pushing this agenda aren't eating their own dog food.
Right.
They certainly are not.
But let me ask you, I was just thinking about this idea I had about the things. So how do you know when you see an all-electric vehicle, what's your telltale sign? Electric. When you see one, you see the new ugly thing, it's called the Mustang, or anything else. They have no grill, right? They're all solid up front. That makes them cool. They look like a spaceship.
No air.
Right.
Yeah, no air inlets.
But that's where they could put it, right? Where there's a grill, you could put probably 3 8 to 10 inch fans behind there. Literally the front of the vehicle. You wouldn't have to have a windmill thing on top. You could have them in front, and their batteries right there, and they're just spinning right behind the grill. You don't have to make it all solid and look futuristic. They could put 3, 4, whatever fans they need in that grill, and as you drive, it spins, it recharges.
You get power.
But then you wouldn't need to stop and plug in and use power so much. You wouldn't have to pay for those charging stations so much, right? But to me, it's just like, anyways, it's a no-brainer. There's obviously a reason why. There's got to be a financial reason why they're doing it. It's got to be against someone, because you would want, if you could do that,
right,
you would have an all-electric vehicle that wouldn't have to freaking stop. You could say, I can go cross-country. As long as I'm driving and air's hitting, because sun's not always there. At nighttime, your solar ain't going to help much.
Right. You'd be independent.
And this is just
truly be independent.
This is renewable energy all the time, right? Solar's not as efficient. Solar panels aren't as efficient as windmills, but wind isn't always blowing. In this case, wind is always blowing because you're moving forward.
Right. Exactly. Right. That's exactly right. But anyway.
It's interesting, Rob, you hit on the power plants, right? It made me think of something. I was watching that story. We were, sharing this links about that the other day, since it happened. Actually, a good friend of mine, I want to say Monday morning, I got a message from him. He just sent me a YouTube video, and I clicked it, and it was no explanation. And it was this, may have been the one I sent you guys, this like reporter, kind of a prepper kind of guy or something, like giving the report on it. Half a day before it ever hit mainstream media, he was like, the substations in North Carolina have been shot up, they've lost power, blah blah blah, all this stuff. And I was like, and what? And I started Googling. I found a couple light mentions of it, but it was probably 8 to 12 hours later before it started hitting mainstream media. And Buddy just sent me this. They were already tracking it, and it made me think. When I worked for the Army, contracting to the Army a number of years ago, and I was working on the counter ID task force. We were always trying to find a way to come up with cool electronics and systems and ways to help American soldiers counter the ID threat in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we had some crazy things. Let me tell you, things you guys have seen them: the cages, the nets, the this, that. That was what we were trying to engineer and develop all these different systems. And one thing that we found, and this reminded me of that, was no matter how high speed we get in trying to counter something, the enemy just comes up with a lower speed way of defeating it, right? So there was at one point there was this things of using like these mesh nets with metal rings in them and stuff, and it would throw out and would make the warhead explode and all that stuff. So what did the enemy start doing? Putting a kid a quarter mile down the road with a razor blade, and as the MRAP drove by, they just stuck it out and just cut the net wide open. So then there was no defense mechanism, and stuff. So they would just find, or So when I saw this, I was like, okay, these guys took probably high-powered rifles, coordinated 2 to 3, I think, substations. They knew where to shoot. They did their research. It wasn't a random couple of hillbillies, throwing beer cans in the back and just driving around doing
like
donuts.
a drive-by.
Right, doing donuts and shooting. These were purposeful, targeted attacks across a number of substations. By the way, right in the same county as where Fort Bragg is, taking out all the power to that area.
Fort Liberty. Fort Liberty.
Fort Bragg. Yeah,
I refuse. I refuse.
So when you look at that and you look at, we've been worried about EMPs for, we've been talking about EMPs and this and that and our infrastructure and all these crazy, what if they blow up the dam, or, what if somebody's able to break into a nuclear power plant and blow. No, just someone with a couple 338s, 300 Win Mags, maybe a 50 cal, sitting about a half-mile offset, and just they don't have to be within a 1-inch grouping. They could be within a couple foot grouping. They got a big target. It's an area target practice, and just can put in middle of the night, drop a couple shots in, and take it out and do it coordinated. I mean, this should be scaring the hell out of everyone, because guess what? All your electric vehicles, all your electric everything, but you just disabled everything. And to do it right next to our premier military base of, the 82nd Airborne and the headquarters of our JSOC and everything else, to sit there and take out the power to that to show how vulnerable we are, somebody is sending big signals.
It doesn't even have to be in the middle of the night. You're talking about rural America where gunshots are common, right? So it's hunting season. It's, next to a military base. Yeah. Those types of sounds are normal.
Right.
So they could have done it, middle of the day, and nobody would have said anything.
Actually,
they also could have been driving around with it in the gun rack, and nobody would have said anything.
That's true. Probably middle of the day would be less obvious because of hunting season, right? Middle of the night, people are like, who the hell's out spotlighting deer? Call Fish and Game, right? But middle of the day, been like, man, somebody's out there just smoking them something, right? And again, all that's around those is maybe a camera, but a chain link fence with some barbed wire, locked up because it's a substation. It's non-manned. It's just running its thing, right? They're monitoring it remotely, and it goes to show. Guess what? Water you have to dig underneath, right? Gas lines you have to dig underneath. These things stick up out. I mean, our enemy, wherever this enemy is, seriously struck at a big Achilles heel of this country, and it was not tough for them to do. If the news media does not cover this more and really push this forward and highlight how critical this is, it's going to go largely unnoticed until one day it gets really big. It doesn't have to be.
If we quit spending billions in Ukraine, we could upgrade our infrastructure.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a bomb planted at a major power plant or something like that. You take out the smaller. You affect America. You just take out the small substations. No one's paying attention to them. They're below the radar line.
Right.
What, 44,000 people? That's
something
what
like
they
that,
said with that power.
And it's saying it's going to take a week or so.
Yeah.
That's a lot of frozen. That's a lot of frozen venison in freezers going bad. I'm just saying.
I mean, thankfully it's not. Thankfully it's not freezing temperatures.
Right.
And thankfully it's not triple-digit temperatures. Right. So the timing was actually a good thing. I mean, people aren't going to freeze to death, and they're not going to die from heat exhaustion. But there's still going to be people that have, that have, asthma and need their, their inhaler or their whatever the nebulizer type treatment, or people who have other medical equipment that are keeping them alive at home. Those people are still going to die.
So and they do it in a rural area. It's kind of mostly not paid attention to. They didn't do it in a major area. They didn't hit Atlanta, Austin, New York, DC, nothing like that. They hit an area that's going to get press coverage. They hit a small county in North Carolina. It's kind of strategically placed, but hey, they did. If it was a test run, I think they gathered the data they need. And
that's right. That was the beta test, right?
So hopefully, I don't know how we could count. I mean, obviously, I don't think the power companies can, put armed guards there or do that certification. But I mean, maybe they got to put up blast walls
around certain places.
Maybe they got to put up like
like
a blast wall around, or like those walls you see, they put along the highway when there's houses right near the highway to have the sound deflectors. But maybe the big OT walls like we had in Iraq and Afghanistan. right? Just
Mhm.
you put on the outside
Those
of the
dirt
fob.
things.
No, not even the, even the I can't believe I just forgot the name of it. What's the name? Starts with H.
You know.
Anyways, I was thinking of the teed barriers. I was thinking of the big concrete ones, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that too.
But I mean, you also need to build in some redundancy to your system, right? I mean, you can't have, I mean, 44,000 people is a lot of people. But like you said, if it had hit Atlanta, we're talking millions, right? I mean, if it were a major city, it would be a lot more.
Right.
And for it to take a week, I don't know that Atlanta would take a week. They may have better resources. They may have whatever power company is supplying it there may have, uh, more backup supplies. So I don't know what North Carolina has, but I mean it could have definitely been a lot worse. But they've got to do something. They if the grid is that vulnerable, 44,000 people without power for a week, that's not acceptable. Not acceptable at all.
Right.
Well,
No,
like you said, Matt, if it wasn't triple digits, imagine hitting Atlanta in August, right?
Yeah.
Or something like
right.
that, or Austin, or Houston,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Now it's a health issue.
It is a health and safety issue. You got people that regardless of what they're medical, but elderly, this whatever. You take away. I mean, some of those places AC is literally life saving, or
Absolutely.
a cold weather area, Minnesota, anywhere up in there, higher upstate New York, go outside Fort Drum like that, and do it where people can't, but a lot of those places will have fireplaces and stoves, but not everyone does, right? They count on, and they may have gas heat, but some people are going to have electric. Especially if you guys saw or not, New York is talking about adopting a law that 2030, 2035, all new builds have to be all electric, no gas in the houses, all electric.
Austin already did that. Austin already did that a few years ago.
That's not surprising.
The gym I used to go to in Austin was in my neighborhood, had gas to the building, and had pulled a permit to do gas sauna. Austin denied it and made them rip everything out and put electric in. And then all new builds had to be electric.
And so what they're saying is like 2020, 30 or 2035, any new builds has to be all electric. And then at some point after that, I don't know when, anytime you get a gas appliance replaced, it has to be electric. So, and if you ever cooked on an electric stove versus gas stove's the only thing I'll ever cook on.
Yeah.
To go to all electric, I mean, which is another reason why I'm getting out of this nanny state one day. But yeah, I mean that's where they're going. I mean they're making us more dependent on something that is even that much more vulnerable to.
Yeah,
remove.
Right.
Well, if you ever watch it, again some of the Capitol Hill testimonies and stuff like that, Massey, I'm trying to remember what state he's from, but he's an MIT grad, and he's a big nerd. And he was doing some questioning on solar and green energy and stuff like that. And he says, so if California today has rolling blackouts, what's going to happen when you force everybody to have electric vehicles? The electric vehicles use more electricity than your refrigerator or than an AC unit to keep it charged up. What's going to happen when everybody is forced to use an electric vehicle and plug it in? You have rolling blackouts now. How are you going to keep up?
Right. No,
they're not.
That's absolute. Yeah, it's when California did that, when they started mandating that back in the summer and they were doing it at the same time they have rolling blackouts. It's almost like, are you not paying attention? I mean, do you think people are that stupid? Well, they are, because Newsom got reelected. So yeah. Hey, Doug, I see that the TSA is planning to add facial recognition to the security. Are you looking to? Is it going to help your flights to go to see the big mouse? Are you going to be?
I guess I'll start wearing a mask. I'll start masking up for my health. See if that'll defeat the software. Of them being able to recognize me.
Who could tell you not to wear a mask? I mean, you could be worried about COVID. You should have to wear a mask.
I'm worried about you and Rob. I don't want you to catch what I have, so I'm going to go ahead and mask up and virtue signal like you wouldn't believe.
Well, you have
places like that.
You have caught the vid a couple times. Is all I'm going to say.
I've caught the vid, so I'd like to think, that Plague 3 shot, man. I'm really counting on that one to come through from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but all right. What else you guys got? Anything else? We've been going a little bit over an hour. There's a lot of topics going on. more than we planned to tonight.
Did I miss the conversation
we talked about the
Facebook lady?
Go ahead, Doug.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Rob. I don't know if you guys talked about the Facebook lady that was getting
harassed by the lieutenant colonel.
Yes.
Yes.
You guys talked about that?
We covered that.
Yeah. We talked about that. We talked about midterms last you and I, Troy, and I wanted to kind of get Doug's weigh in on it. And one of the things that we talked about was this expected red wave, and it didn't happen, and why. And what Troy and I think we both agreed on was it wasn't just one thing. It was multiple things. It was poor candidates. It was support, and there was obviously what we're seeing now is there's still some suppression from the media, whether it's through Twitter or whether it's through anything like that. But one of the things that I've been looking at is the expenditures of the Republican Party and how they didn't put money in the places that they should have. And one of those is the Georgia, the Herschel Walker election. Was Herschel Walker the best candidate? Probably not. But they didn't put any money there either. And whether they thought it was a losing battle, or they just simply didn't want to back Herschel Walker. They did the same thing. I told you, a former guest that we've had, he's gone on social media and said that he was asked for a list of names by the Republican Party to help send out flyers to, and that they would help support campaign. And then the money never materialized. So they basically screwed him over. There's some rumblings within the Republican Party, that not wanting McCarthy to be the next Speaker of the House.
To be the Speaker.
Yeah, right. and how he's basically the swamp, and he's fleeced a lot of people. And so I think there's way more involved in what happened in the midterms with the establishment that's there, and why that red wave didn't happen. Whether they made a deal with the devil in the back rooms with the Democrats, or whether they just simply didn't want to endorse Trump candidates, or what their reasoning was. Yeah, they didn't want to deal with the Trump candidates. I think it was a good part of it. But I wanted to get your.
That was a good part of it. No. I mean, you're right. I think it's many things, because I've read a couple things on it. I think the abortion thing definitely influenced it. The Biden coming out and saying, "I'll pay off your college loan." Again, whether he thought it would actually happen or not is irrelevant. Mission accomplished for him bringing it up. So you might have gotten a little bump there. Everything you said about the Republican Party, completely agree with. And then I don't know how much that wasn't enough. If there was some massaging of votes, because I've been reading a couple articles on sort of how that could be done, where they will take a certain 30,000 votes, change the status of them, count them, and then change the status back to what it was before. And by the time you figure out when that happened, it's been months and months and months, and we've all moved on. So again, it's so there's all kinds of funky stuff going on, analytically, and programmatically, that they can turn, figure out what they need to turn, and they could. It's just really, but I think mostly it's the Republican Party. I think a lot of those guys don't want to be in charge. I think they just want to have their office represent the people, and that way they don't have to take responsibility for anything. They can keep saying, always be kind of like the loud minority complaining about how things are going, but they don't want to actually take charge and try to correct things. I think that's a lot of it too, because back to being part of the swamp, right? And whether there's any differences between the two parties for real or not, or they just come out in public and say some stuff about each other, and then they all go back and have drinks and dinner and slap each other on the back. And so I don't know. I'm just kind of jaded. So
there's no recourse.
I think
there's no recourse. You can't recall them. You just simply have to wait to the next election, and then they're just going to come out with the next thing. One of the things that got missed, and we kind of briefly touched on it, was one of the executive orders by Biden was, I want to have everyone who's in prison for the sole charge of marijuana possession to be set free and their charges dropped. I would ask anybody, you bring me one person who was in prison solely for the possession of marijuana.
Federal prison.
Not a single person out there.
Federal prison.
Not a single person. Yeah, not a single person. It was a ploy to buy votes. That's what it was.
Absolutely.
Just like the student debt, just like everything else. Now the problem is the Republicans, when they do get any sort of authority, they roll over and show their belly. They don't use the same tactics. They just point the finger and go, "We're not those guys," and they continue to get the shit kicked out of them. And the losers, and the losers at the end of it is the American people.
Absolutely. Yep, exactly. There happen to be noble losers, but we're the one who pay the price. They keep whatever. Again, back to they get to keep their little, whatever they get off on their power, but they don't have to be responsible for anything. Yeah, I think that's a lot of it too. So anyway, right. on to happy news.
Yep.
How does it feel to be a grandfather, Troy?
It feels awesome. And
did we lose Troy?
Yep. No, I'm right here. Can you not hear me? We lost you. You're frozen.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Doug's frozen. I don't see him moving. He's good. Oh, there he is. Now he's moving. Yeah. No, it's
I
great.
lost you guys.
It's a whole new level of being able to spoil someone and not be having to deal with the after effects. So it's been great. We're really excited. Very happy, and it's like a recharge in life after your kids grow and move out. As our youngest just had his birthday, turned 21. So I think that's it. We have no little ones, if you would call it, even though he's still the baby at 6'4". He's not really looking like one. But yeah, now he's 21 and and drinking and doing all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's awesome to have a girl in the family for the first time ever.
Right.
All boys, as you know, and to have a granddaughter. So it's a blessing. It truly is. We're pretty stoked.
Amen. Right.
It's a whole new stage of life.
It is. It's kind of cool. Stage. Like I brought something into this world, and now it's brought something into this world. Like here's the legacy happening.
Right.
It's just weird.
Right.
I was. Yeah, it's like the first time you have your first kid. It's like your whole world changes. It turns upside down. Okay, this is the new normal, and what life like before this. It's kind of almost at that same level, like a grandchild. Like that's a whole, that's a whole other. What a weird.
So what do you go by? Do you go by Grandpa? Is that the name?
Yeah, what's your moniker?
Seeing that she's just a month and a half, not even a month and a half old, she hadn't really been able to give me one yet. Everyone's asking me, what's your grandpa name? Like, whatever she calls me. Like, I don't know, nor do I care. I mean...
that grumpy old bastard.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, G-O-B. But...
G-O-B.
Yeah. I don't know. Whatever she wants to call me, I'm cool with. Just not a big thing for me. Yeah, it's just cool. So, but thanks for asking. One of these days, man. These days. You'll have that feeling too. You'll be holding it. You'll be Grandpa Doug. Be like,
yeah, that'd be
but
Doug.
Still in great shape, still kicking it, and people are like, "You're a grandpa." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not the grandpa you thought I was." So
that's right.
Mine call me Papa.
Papa.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to call me. Maybe mine would be Poppy. It'd be Poppy.
Poppy. Yay, Poppy.
Yeah. That's great.
Rampy.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I just it's funny because you think back to your grandpa. I mean, I think back to my grandpa and stuff like that. I think back to the day, and it's just like wow, I don't feel like I'm old, which I'm not, but it's just like. But obviously, the things I remember, I was much older. But
yes,
yeah, it's just kind of weird when you reflect. The only back on is when your grandpa. Anyone, you kind of think of this really either old dude sitting on the front porch with one strap on his overalls with a big spittoon. That's one memory I have. Or whatever else it may be. It's just like not what I'm not there yet. I still got some more time before I hit that level.
That's right.
I'm a grandpa times 3.
Wow.
And I'll be 50 in 21 days.
Wow, you're not even 5-0.
He's not even a half century yet. Yeah. Man.
You got another half century to go. There you go.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Yeah,
right.
we'll see.
Well, hey,
We'll
I think
see.
we've done almost an hour and a half. I think we've done good tonight. Thanks for you guys coming on. Thank you
Yeah.
everyone for joining us and coming on with us tonight. I mean, like I say, it's been a couple weeks. As far as next week, I will be on the road. I know I won't be able to do the show. I will be on the road. In fact, seeing that little granddaughter we were just talking about. So
Awesome.
I won't be here, and then the week after is right before Christmas. We'll see. We can
Couple
pull one
days,
off.
yeah.
So probably definitely gonna get at least one more show in. Maybe I think it's the 28th or something this year. So this won't be the last show. I'm actually working on a past guest to come on.
Like the 22nd and 29th, maybe.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I don't have the calendar. So we'll definitely be having another one, but won't be having one next week. But so I thank you guys for coming on tonight. I should stay on just for a couple minutes after. But thank you everyone for joining us here on Stu and the Nunn. Wishing our good friend, co-host Toby well. He's doing awesome down in Mexico. Been chatting with him lately. And
Good.
Everyone else. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Of course, Gear for Grunts being one of those. Still waiting on that check, though. It hasn't shown up. But thank you.
Man, it's in the mail, man.
Is it?
It's in the mail.
You couldn't get out to the mailbox. The tow truck was in the way.
It's in the same low where some boats are, Troy. Yeah. It's where some Republican boats are.
Yeah, that's it.
That's where it's located. But, sorry, did I say that?
Yeah, you said that. But anyways, thank you so much for joining us here on Stu and the Nunn. Remember, 8 o'clock every Thursday. Not next Thursday, but tune in. Be sure you go check Dave's book. Remember the Ramrods. Be sure you go check out Lauren F. Bruner's book if you haven't got it. You will not be disappointed. I'm telling you all day. It's a book you want to read. So with that being said, thank you, everyone. Everyone have a good night, and we will see you all later.
Thanks. God bless.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Stu and the Nunn Show, and we hope you had as much fun listening to it as we did hosting it for you. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter. You can find all these links at stewandthenunn.com. We will talk to you again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Commodity Outdoors, Veteran Outdoors, Enlisted 9 Fight Company, Warrior Media Solutions, and BooHammer.com. Thank you again, and have a good night.